Sorry, Dawn. Yeah, for some reason it said this meeting is being.
Thank you for, thank you, Don. Thank you, everybody, for being here. This is our second to last training. So really excited for um, all the work that's been done to get these trainings going. My name is Eric Cuello. I am the Director of Community Affairs for the Manhattan Borough President, Mark Levine, joined here by Porfirio Figueroa, our deputy, who makes this entire series run. So thank you, Porfirio. To Dawn, our CAU administrator, who makes sure that we're all here and gets everything lined up with our presenters. Thank you. And Porfirio is going to be doing introductions for Hector Rivera, who um, just does an incredible job in our topography unit. So thank you, Hector, for being here and presenting today. I'll keep it short. This is our second to last training for our leadership training series. We do have a really good one coming up this evening. So I see, since it's our topography one, I do see a couple of land use chairs and some other land use members across the borough that are joined here today with us. So I think the other one will also be really helpful, which is knowing how to navigate the DOB and HPD portals. I just think it's incredibly important, as I'm sure so many of you, just as it happens with me, come across folks who just want to know more information about a construction site, or you have tenants who want to know how to advocate for repairs in their building, and are they actually reporting them, and what does HPD know? Just being able to navigate those portals is going to be extremely helpful for us, and as we share that information with our committees, with our communities. So I would encourage folks to sign up for that one. Um, one note, in case anybody was still planning to register for it, we did have a session planned for tomorrow, which was going to be our session with the US Census. However, because of the government shutdown, or the federal government shutdown, that unit is not able to give a presentation. So we have canceled it for now. But don't worry, once we have a chance, we will circle back with them and hopefully be able to present that to everyone here. So with that, I will pass it over to Porfirio to introduce our presenter.
Thank you, Eric Cuello. As always, I appreciate your support. And Dawn, I can't say enough about having you here. However, today we have one of our very special own, very fellow colleague. And if you have ever had the great pleasure or opportunity to tour our maps room, someone who has a lot of passion about this subject, I have learned so much from this person over the last 4 years here. Um, and that is Hector Rivera, who is the topographical associate at the Manhattan Borough President's Office for the City of New York. With a career spanning over 3 decades, Hector has become an integral part of the office map room, overseeing both historical and modern maps of Manhattan. He started as an intern in 1994 and transitioned to his current role in 2008, where he has been responsible for digitizing and maintaining the borough's extensive map archives. As the borough president's topographer, Hector assigns and addresses for new buildings, maintains street information, and provides critical data on what lies beneath Manhattan buildings, basements, and tunnels. His work supports city agencies and businesses, helping to solve modern day engineering problems by leveraging historical records dating back to the colonial times. Hector also collaborates with the borough president to officially alter streets for Manhattan's street map, aiding in efforts to reduce congestion and pollution. Hector's dedication to preserving and updating Manhattan's topographical history has made him a respected figure in the field, ensuring that the borough development is well informed and community focused. Very, very special session. Hector, I turn it over to you and thank you for being here.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Today I'm doing a quick presentation on the resources that our office has and how you could utilize it to help make critical decisions when you have land use well, questions and land use projects before you. So I'm going to share my screen right now. And There it is. Okay. So for the Borough of Manhattan, the Topographical Bureau is charter mandated to maintain the city map. And the city map is not one map, it's a collection of maps. It's the 1811 Commissioner's Plan plus about 3,000 legal alterations to that original plan. The Topographical Department has historic maps, alteration maps, damage maps, legal grade maps, as well as monument maps. The 1811 Commissioner's Plan was created by the in 1802. This city formed the street commissions, and the commissioners were Gouverneur Morris, John Rutherford, as well as Samuel D. Witt. John Randall was a surveyor that surveyed the island, and he created the commissioner's plan, but he wasn't satisfied with the original plan that was signed in 1811. So what he did was he created the Randall Farm Maps. The world famous Randall Farm Maps is the detailed survey of the island of Manhattan at the time when the city was preparing to build the streets. So when the commissioner's map was approved in 1811 doesn't mean those streets were built. It took time for the city to build them. And the basically he uh, surveyed the entire island to show details of the existing land with the grid system pulled over it. I've worked collectively with the Museum of the City of New York to have these maps digitized and scanned and readily available for anyone over the internet. So you could actually research them by going to the Greatest Grid exhibit within the Museum of the City of New York and see each individual place. Other interesting maps that dramatically changed the city is this 1868 map showing the creation of several parks, creating Central Park, as well as mapping Broadway north of 59th, straightening out the lines, as well as connecting it to the existing street system. It mapped Riverside Park, as well as Morningside Park and St. Nicholas Park. What's interesting about this map that I personally like is that it shows the reasons why Morningside Park and St. Nicholas Park were created due to the natural topography. This map will show the difference in grading. Over here, it says 130 feet and then 22 feet, showing the difference between the east and the west side of the park of Morningside Park, as well as St. Nicholas Park. It has the actual grading of 30 feet on the east side and roughly 90 feet on the north side. Um, then in 1898, the consolidation of the five boroughs, Andrew Green was chartered to push for the collaboration of the five boroughs. And we're going to move forward into 1916, where it's the first comprehensive zoning resolution that was comprehensive because it encompassed and set limits for the entire city. And then there was the 1961 zoning resolution introducing FAR, which basically floor area ratio, allowing developers to build differently, as well as providing bonuses for public open spaces, which were a lot of plazas that led to a lot of vanity addresses. And then in 1989, the Supreme Court ruled that the Board of Estimate was deemed unconstitutional, and a lot of the responsibilities were diminished from the borough president and moved to different city agencies. Certain responsibilities remained with the borough president's office, as well as allocation of certain capital and budget needs funding, and the majority of the topographical bureau responsibilities remained with the borough president's office. The type of maps the borough president's office has are legal grade section maps. These maps show the width of the street, the grading of the street, and it also shows if a street is private or not. We have monument maps, and these are maps that surveyors use to determine the property lines. And it shows, you'll find these markers within the sidewalks. So when you walk in the streets and you see this square or this little circle, say penalty for removal, MBPO, these are markers that surveyors use, and they request survey maps from this office to follow the lines and determine the property lines. We also have legal alteration maps. So any new alteration maps are changes to the original city plan, and they go through the ULURP process. And this office works closely with city agencies to provide, make sure that the maps, the alterations that they present are technically accurate based on the city plan. And what I'm going to go to now is some other resources that our office has when it comes to. So since I've been here, I've worked on digitizing and scanning a lot of these paper maps. So I haven't actually printed a map for anybody in over 5 to 7 years. The maps I do print are usually for educational purposes. I received a grant from the State Archives Commissions to work on digitizing these maps that were deemed in good condition. And what I did was put together an online website that gives people access to the city map the best way I could. And this is just a disclaimer, but it explains that the commissioner's plan laid out all the avenues at 100 feet, all the streets at 60 feet, except for major cross streets that were laid out at 100 feet at the time that match our subway stops, 14th Street, 23rd Street, 34th Street, and so on. And anyone that's going to use these maps for working conditions, they would have to email me to verify that the city currently doesn't have any plans to make any alterations to the street that they're working at. Now, the way this map can be used as a tool is we have our section maps. So for community boards that are working on sidewalk applications or um, for sidewalk seating, you could go to the area, click on the map, and then it will give you the legal width of the street. And that would be property line to property line, the right of way width, and then the sidewalk width. So if you get a cafe sidewalk application, you could see that 125th Street, the street width is 15 feet. And then that could help you determine if that application is suitable and that it still provides access for the public to pass when the sidewalk cafe is approved or disapproved. So you'll see the numbers 20 on here, 60 is the right of way, 20. So those are the width of the street, but the width of the street is this total. So it would be 100 feet for that street. I've also worked on digitizing so that you have all the legal alteration maps. So all these numbers are actual alterations and you could track and see the way the city has changed over the years. If you are doing some research in a particular area, you could hover your mouse over the number or call out the year of the map and what that map does. And if you want a copy of that map, you just click it and you actually have the signed legal adopted alteration for that area that establishes the width, parkland, or any uh, grading that has been established. I put all the maps that were deemed scannable and in good condition. You could see some of the most recent alterations that we filed that reopened 129th Street between 7th and 8th Avenue. And it shows what areas are mapped as parkland, as well as the legal grades and the width of the street. And I worked on scanning them to the point where you could zoom in and you won't have to question what are the numbers. So I focused on making sure that the grading and the numbers are visible so you could see what are the legal widths of the streets. Our other charter mandated responsibility is the house numbers. So what I've put together is the address status locator. And my mouse is dragging a little. Here we have the address status locator. The way to get to it is if you go to the Borough President's website and just go to his website directly, Manhattan Borough President's office. You can go to resources, land use planning and development, and then you could click on the address status locator. The significance of this is that you will be able to see what applications have been filled and submitted and what addresses that are approved for those planned developments. Anything in blue indicates that a application was submitted to verify the appropriate addresses to their planned new development. And what we do now is we issue reservation letters for any planned development with the approved address of what the office approved. So you'll see the historic lot numbers as well as the new lot number. And then I include a full plan pointing out all the addresses that are appropriate based on the initial plan they presented to me. So you can see that this would be the 76 Varick Street, 70 Varick Street for commercial, and they also going to have a school building in there. So the reserved address for the school portion would be 85 Avenue of the Americas, and another commercial space as 91 Avenue of the Americas. If an application is actually, if you're curious to see, you could, a particular development in the area, you could type in the address or by block and lot, and it will bring you to it. And then you can see what has been approved and what has been submitted. So this would have a little comment and it would indicate what was the initial filing. It would also include the stamp PD1 that was done, verifying all work is being done within the meets and bounds and not encroaching on a map city street. Uh, When they purchase multiple lots, they are required to go to the Department of Finance and fill out the RP 602 form. The Department of Finance is responsible for maintaining the lots within the block. The borough president is responsible for maintaining the legal width of the street as well as the block dimensions. So when a developer comes, they saying they're going to build on multiple lots, and make sure they go to the Department of Finance first to have the Department of Finance issue the new lot number that will be assigned when they complete and meet all requirements for the lot merger. And for the new development, we also issue a reservation letter. And this is reserving the appropriate addresses for each entrance. And when the building is built and a site visit is conducted, we will issue the actual assignment letter. Now, this is a permanent document that stays with the life of the building, but they may need to get an updated letter. If this building right now, the lot number is 49, but if they turn to condo, they would need to request a new address verification for this project. And you can utilize the websites. They're available anytime, and you can track and see the development of the city, either through the mapping or as well as through the actual addresses that were there. So when you're looking at this and you see it's blue, those are for buildings that are being, that we issued a reservation letter for, but they're haven't applied for final yet. So for this project in particular, I did receive the request for final house number. So I'm just waiting for them to provide all documents. And if you have any questions, you could add it into the chat and Porfirio will help me, uh, and we'll do our best to answer. Thank
Uh,
you.
Thank you, Hector. Very, very comprehensive. Could you go to the borough president's website page and the site where people can go, and first page where it pops up, so that they know where to go to. And while you're doing that, I'm going to read the first question. Very, very informative. And I'm going to kick this one off. It's a question from Michael Cohen. Where can I find the paper maps so that I can view them myself? And how are the property lines decided on?
So the paper maps are housed within our office in the topographical department, but I've put a lot of them available on the website. So you can actually access the digital version of those paper maps that are approved. If you want to see the original actual paper maps, you could email me and request an appointment, and I will show you the areas you are looking at. And we have several different resources that can give you the whole history. We have some map books dating back. So if you were looking at a particular area, I can provide you with that information. And through an appointment, you'll come in and I will show you whatever we have in the office.
Thank you. I have a question from Seema Reddy. Seema, the first part of your question we cannot answer because that has to do with elections. I can answer the second part of the question, which is uh, the access to the maps, as Hector just stated, will be found on the Manhattan Borough President's website. The topographical department continues because it's part of our office. Um, I have another question. Uh, do other city agencies, such as the building department, accept the information provided from the Manhattan Borough President's office that is generated or contained in its system?
Yes. So basically, I work very closely with all city agencies to correct discrepancies within the data. So I get a lot of constituent calls sometimes regarding the addresses not matching the block and lot, or if a developer builds a building, but then for some reason the billing address is being sent to the wrong place because they never close out the project, or so sometimes they are discrepancies within city data, and I do my research and then work with those city agencies to correct those discrepancies and provide evidence of what we have on file. So if for instance, if a building has a vanity address, I got a call one time regarding 70 Little West Street, and there was discrepancies within the data, but I provided copies of all these letters showing what are the appropriate addresses for each entrance. And when they converted this building to condo, they didn't come back to get a new verification letter. So that led to the discrepancies within the data. So I shared this with the co-op board, and they did not request a new verification letter, but they took the information, and I'm sure they worked on being able to tie all the addresses to that project, to the building.
So, while I know the answer to this question, I'm going to ask this question because I think it's relevant to everyone who's here. Why is having a designation address important, and why is it important for the Manhattan Board President to have that filed?
Okay. So for the addresses and for the borough president to have it, I've worked to try to make sure that this is all publicly accessible and you can see what has been approved for those addresses. Now, addresses play key roles in 911 emergency response as well as mail delivery service for a business to be conducted properly. So I work with when I issue letters, they are sent to all city agencies so that they could update their records uh, according to what is built and what is there. I do issue reservation letters for existing buildings that have been around for so many years, and then they are working on getting a new CO. But 30 years ago, there was a merger of two buildings, but they never filed the paperwork. So with the verification letter, it will help clear up that historically that used to be two buildings. Sometime within the last 30 years, they made work, merged those buildings, but they never closed it out. So their records still show that there are two buildings on that block and lot. And usually you'll see that when you go into Department of Buildings Biz website and you'll see the block and lot and it'll have multiple buildings on there. I also make There are block and lots with multiple buildings on there, and we do issue verification letters for huge developments so that it makes it easier for the developer or whoever's managing the property to file under the correct building address and bin number. So this was a letter I did a while ago just to make sure that each structure has its own address, and this helps clarify the bin issues so that if there's an elevator violation on here, it won't prevent them from filing work on this building. And it would help them clear up and make sure that any violations are properly, or any issues are filed under the correct building.
I have a nuance which is part of the same question. How does this affect city agencies interacting with particular addresses? And by that I mean fire department, EMT, delivery of mail, etc.
Okay, so when a new building is built, I will issue the addresses and they'll be sent to all city agencies, actually, as well as for all new developments. So the importance of the verification letters are helpful to 911 emergency response to determine how many engines and trucks they need to send when it comes to historically this was a 9-story building, but then they end up building something different. The 911 will know what is being built. So it helps with the proper emergency response for even buildings that haven't been completed. So when you have a crane collapse and there are no fatalities, that is because 911 was aware that historically there was a only a 3-story structure, but they merged all these lots in our planning to build a 20 to 40-story structure.
Will the federal government deliver mail to an address that is not filed?
Um, Technically, they do not. Sometimes they do temporarily, but they will let me know. So when we assign an address, it's to ensure that the address is for the proper use. So when we issue a reservation letter, the post office is aware of these. And then if the applicant starts to request mail delivery, they will notify me and notify the applicant that it's time for them to apply for permanent house numbers. And when it comes to mail delivery for residential buildings, the building has to be occupied by a certain amount of people before they start delivering full mail. But if they have a reservation letter and it's built, the post office will not return those mails. They'll just work with the managing agent of the building to schedule either pickup of of the mail until they meet the minimum requirement of occupancy for mail delivery. I also have the post office scheduled site visits with them, and so that they can see if the new mailboxes are in compliance with the actual post office standards, so that they don't have to redo or make any alterations or have any issues with mail delivery.
Great. You mentioned something about private streets. What does that mean versus private public? I mean, for clarification.
Okay, so private streets are pretty much streets that you would think are map city streets and use, but they're not. They are streets like there was one extra place, Shimbone Alley, or you would see them on these maps with the line there. So this one is within the block, so that means it's a private street. And then our office retains a card record of all the history of these particular streets. Just this past year, I received a grant from the State Archives Commissions to digitize our entire card file. And my next project will be to make those records available digitally online. So I have the actual full scan of all our card records, and I need to work on creating a way to make them publicly accessible over the internet.
Great. Another question. How does it take? How long does it take for the changes to show up after records or requests have been filed or changes have been made?
Okay, so it varies, but the most it will take would be 3 months based on how that particular agency updates their records. So when I send out a verification or assignment letter, it is sent to all the agencies, and depending on which agency you're basically looking at, they do it pretty much quarterly, but they're not in sync. So Department of Buildings updates their records one maybe the third week, and then DO Department of uh, Department of Finance will update their records on the of the month, fourth week of the month, but pretty much quarterly is when the full records would be updated. But once you receive the letter and it says that these are the addresses for those entrances, they should uh, basically not question it.
What happens if a development is happening and there's a discrepancy? Does it have to come back to our office?
Yes, so the idea is that we want to have the reservation letters match what they plan on building. it makes it a lot easier to close out and get their final CO if they file and make sure that the plan is correct. So this happens a lot more often than you would probably expect, and that's usually because sometimes a project is being planned by one developer, and then another developer comes and sees that plan and buys it out uh, from them and comes up with their own plan. So when they do that, they would have to theoretically come back and request an updated reservations to ensure that the addresses are properly registered with our office. And those are usually for uh, when huge developments that are occurring.
Thank you. I think you answered this question, but it's a nuanced further. Do you also have maps that show what each building is used for and its floor area ratio?
No, that would be a responsibility of the city planning.
Okay,
So
great.
that is not within the charter of our responsibility. Our responsibility is the legal width of the streets as well as the house numbers. So I work with them in determining what are the addresses, but city planning is responsible for the use of those structures.
And how would land use chairs, if needed, be able to reach out to you if they needed information for like creating rezos and or any discussions that they're having in their community boards?
They could email me, and that would be the best way because I do get a lot of requests. And or call me. You'd have my number. They could share it.
Okay, and I know you're here at One Center Street, just to clarify. Um, One other thing, just from a historic point of view, because I always find it fascinating and learn something new when I'm speaking with you. Can you talk a little bit about the map that's at the City of New York and the ongoing, how they feel about having it and it being really ours?
Oh, there's only one plate within the museum of the city of New York, and that's the plate that the museum sits in. So we have an agreement with them, and they were basically required to display that map. Otherwise, we will ask for that map back. We have a contract with them, and they renew this agreement every year. And this is basically the complete Randall farm map paste together that they did, and I worked with them on that as well as the individual Randall tiles. So this website is very useful for anyone that is interested in seeing what was there. It has a little hourglass. It gives you the details that you could hover over. So um, the Museum of the City of New York is just on loan. They only have this plate right here, and this is pretty much where they sit. So if they don't display it, let me know, and I will request that it is returned to us.
Great. Can you slowly state your email so everyone has it?
My email address is HRIVERA at manhattanbp.nyc.gov. So it's
Great.
hrivera at manhattanbp.nyc.gov.
Um, can you talk about the process that you use to digitize all the historic maps and how long did it take?
It took me about 10 years to get the maps scanned. Not all of them are digitally scanned at the moment. I received actually two archive grants from the State Archive Commission. One was to conduct a full needs assessment of the current condition of all the maps, and then it would grade the maps and let me know which maps were deemed eligible for scanning and which needed preservation work done on them. So, for instance, the Randall Farm maps were they're very old, so they recommended we do not scan them with our in-house feeder scanner, and that's where I worked closely with the Museum of New York to have them scan that full collection because they have the equipment that would not damage the maps, and they were able to um, obtain insurance during the process of scanning them.
Excellent. Are there any other questions? Seeing none. Hector, thank you. We are so, so grateful for the time you've taken. We're grateful for everyone being here today. As Eric, who I thank profusely for his support, mentioned, we do have HPD and DOB tonight at 5 p.m. Um, I could also not do this without the help of Dawn Billings, our support system here in the CAU unit. Um, and I want to take a quick moment to thank all of you for being part of the leadership training series here at the Manhattan Borough President's Office. It's been quite a week, and I see many of the names are returned and have taken more than one. Hector, Leslie Cologne personally says thank you very much for all your help, and she'll probably be reaching out to you on something that she has a question about. To all of you, I'm going to give you the rest of your day back. I hope I see many more of you tonight on the last one at 5 p.m. Have a great day. And again, on behalf of the Manhattan Borough President's Office, thank you for being part of this series. Have a great
Yes.
day.